Hi, my name is Bogdan Mihai, CEO of the famous clothing company AMP, and today we are reunited one last time for a capsule where I explain how to make your company grow. You will probably not only have started your company, employed employees, and learned everything that comes related to it, but have also probably started generating some profit. If so, congratulations, but the work does not stop there. Now that you have your company and that you are doing well, you have other things to worry about. This time, we will be speaking of worker unions, something CEOs must deal with constantly, and the international aspect that your company could take, since expanding it means more profit for you. So you might want to consider a global expansion. Let us start by answering the question some might ask: what are unions? To put it simply, unions are like the lawyers of your employees. It's for that reason. it's for that reason that you might have to deal with them often. Do not worry. The fact that employees unionize does not necessarily mean that you're treating them wrong. It is there in case there is a collective agreement, dissatisfaction with the managers, social and status concerns, or an unfair treatment in terms of pay, benefits, or working conditions. You cannot interfere with the certification process of the union, so the way they decide what is a valid reason for them to fight the employer on, or threaten your employees in any way for joining a union or forming one. It is their right to do so, and by doing the contrary, you might attract yourself some legal problems. You cannot bribe or change some conditions to work around the union either. You must always bargain in good faith, or again, you might attract yourself some legal problems, and that is more trouble that can be avoided easily. Do not worry though. There, you are not the only one that has some restrictions binding themselves. The unions do too. They, of course, can cannot try. They, of course, cannot try to coerce or intimidate you, and cannot engage for illegal activities, even if they want to change the employer's right. Indeed, it is. If it were not for that, each time people would be dissatisfied with anything you offer, they would start rampaging on either you, your property, or even your company, and that would leave you a slave to what the workers want. They also cannot interfere with whatever operation you, as the employer, are doing, since it is up to you how you manage your company uh, as you wish, not them. Of course, the last thing they must oblige by is providing fair and equal representation of all employees, since no employee is more important than the other, and they should be treated equally. Although you might see a union as only negative and bothersome, it is quite more important for your employees than you might think, and not just because it helps protect their rights. It helps them have a greater involvement in your decisions, allowing them to feel like their word has worth against the employer, and knowing what happens in the company. It also helps the manager restrict his behavior and actions to ensure that the employees are treated rightly. We know that a happier employee is a better working employee, but in the past, it was not always thought like that. Employees were slaves to employers, and their conditions were horrible. So, to make sure that the employees are not treated horribly, unions are created and fight for their employees' rights. Unions, in a way, make your decisions for the company a bit harder, but it helps ensure that everyone is kept somewhat happy by the job they have. There are usually two functions in a union. First off, there is the shop steward. That person is usually a non-paid union official that is an employee at the concerned company, and that represents the interests of a union member and of the union members in their relationship with management. So you. They are there as the face of the union and those that know a bit more about what happens in a company and what to expect from it. Then there is the business agent. This is a paid union official that is responsible for negotiating and administrating the collective agreement and working to resolve union members' problems. Basically, it is the person that actively investigates the problems and ensures that these problems will get solved. They are the people you'll most probably have to deal with in the union. Let us say that the union wants to negotiate some things with you. What do you do? How do you negotiate? Or know what to say yes to and what to say no to? Usually, it is recommended to gather that data before negotiations. Look at how much was offered in other companies for, as an example, wages or benefits. Look into what others have negotiated and try finding if there is a good result or they gave too much loose. Also, check if you can find a pattern in the negotiations they're trying to make. Is the union trying to change the conditions of a specific person or the condition of all of a certain worker class? Look into that and make sure to check if they are keeping their rights in check so that you can call them out if they are trying to anything shady. Do not forget to make a list of objectives. What are you trying to get out of this negotiation? What can you not let go of? Do not forget to keep those in mind so that you do not end up giving little by little until all is given. One last thing you to remember is that you must try finding some bargaining strategies. Look into that to try to be more convincing, so you get the upper hand in the negotiation process. And so everything goes the way you want it to. But do not worry, you will not be alone in your negotiations. During that time, you should have a negotiation team with you that analyzes the proposals and resolves them, usually by knowing what you want out of these negotiations. At the end of those negotiations, after you and the union will have had a collective agreement, do not forget to write and sign a legal binding written document or to have any documentation on what was decided and negotiated. That way, both you and the union will have defined rights and responsibilities to respect and everything that has been negotiated. If anything in the agreement has not been respected, either party must present their proof and keep in mind that if things degenerate, they can go to court. Now that we have figured out how unions work and that you're able to fully deal with anything that is thrown at you, you can make your company grow and have them expand over other countries. To prepare you for that, I will discuss many things that you should know about going international. Now, the first question you must be wondering about is probably how exactly does it affect management? Well, first off, to go worldwide, you need to consider a few economic factors, such as trade agreements. Indeed, these will be essential for your products to be able to go worldwide. Because, just as an example, you need another company to distribute your products everywhere in the world. You will not be able to distribute it yourself since it would be too costly and it would take too much time to plan. So you need to make agreements with other companies. Also, you will need to be informed in every country you want to sell the products at. Do not forget that not every country has the same laws or protected property rights. So to avoid problems from arriving once you settle, you will need to inform yourself on the countries you wish to expand to. Do not only check for laws, but also the cultural aspect of the country. For example, if you're selling meat products made from pork in a Muslim country, you might find that you do not get a lot of sales there, since Muslim people do not eat pork. When a new kind of when a new when in a new country, try keeping a distance on any controversial subjects such as religion, race, sexism, and any other subjects that uh, that like that. You might think that your opinion is right, but not everyone will think that. So, to avoid problems, it is best to avoid such subjects or just not to address them at all. It might sound obvious to some, but we often forget that not every country has the same mentality and the same values. If you expand globally, you will need to employ more employees. And although you might think that it is the same as employing employees in your country, it is a bit different. As a new company in the country, you should strive to be known with a good reputation so that people think highly of you. Quality employees, so those that work better and are more skilled, always go to companies that are well seen and are thought of highly. Since not only do they think that they get better advantages, which might not always be the case, but people are very prideful, and they will want to boast about themselves having a job in a well-seen company rather than in a random company or a badly seen one. Remember to consider the country and compensating according to the competition in the said country you expand in, and that it fits the circumstances of the country. Keep in mind that you can transfer employees from your current country in another one if they seem to fit the job. But in that case, you must remember to give a language and cultural training to the person, no matter who they are, just in case. It would be bad if that employee did a mistake and ruined your company's whole reputation just because you forgot to inform them. Make sure to somewhat train their family too, because the family is directly associated with the employee, who is directly associated with your company. It might be a culture shock at first for them, but with enough time, they will accept and advance. They will adapt and advance through the life normally. Remember, the employee going there is technically doing extra work, since they need to be more wary of how they behave and must move from their home. Be sure to compensate them well enough.